we found out we're having another baby, we're excited, happy, all the good stuff like normal parents are. Just before her 12-week ultrasound, the doctors told us she was gonna have problems. We didn't know how bad, etc. So when she was born, she had some severe issues. We traveled to Rochester, Minnesota, because nobody here could tell us what she had, what was her underlying syndrome. We found out that she had Gideon syndrome. That's when the seizures started. Her first grand mal was about 3 months old. When she was in the ICU, she always had a twitch. She would twitch and roll her eyes, and doctors never knew really what it was. She was on numerous different medications. She was swollen to the point where she was just red. We thought like at times her skin would burst. Her neurologist met with us and said that we needed to be her hero. Give her a drug that would ultimately shut her down and probably pass away within 2 months. You're a doctor supposed to be helping her, and then you want me to take her home and give this medicine to her that, we know is pretty much gonna end her life. It was like, I just can't do that. And on the drive home, Sadie had a grand mal. We pulled over, and while we're trying to give her rescue meds, and those didn't really work anyways, but still, like, that was our tools we had to help, to help our daughter.
Because she was not getting any better, she was just getting all the side effects.
And I told my wife, I think we need to try medical cannabis. I had researched about it, never really approached her. My wife is, completely straight.
My first thought was like, yeah, you're crazy. Like after doing everything that we can and everything that the doctors offer and nothing worked, how this is gonna help our baby. And that was my first thought. And
finally found Dr. Ravi at Centric Wellness. And he's like, come on in, I have some older kids. I never dealt with a baby, but come on in and we'll see what we can do. And he spent a lot of time with us. We showed him some of her medical records. And he suggested we start with CBD. Got home and had my wife, she took the kids to my older 2 daughters, Dina and Sophia, and took them to the park. I put a tiny little bit under her tongue and about the size of a grain of a rice through her G-tube. And I'm sitting there watching her, I'm like, wait a minute, her eyes they stopped. And then I was like, Sadie, and she would look this way, and then I'd go over to this side, Sadie, and she would look that way also. And I was just like, and this was like within 10 minutes, and I'm just like dumbfounded, sitting there watching her. And then the head of the UCSD special needs division, and he is just unbelievably dumbfounded by it. I mean, every time we go to this day, he's like, it's a tragedy that you guys are coming here and educating me, a doctor, on this, and I can't do anything to help you guys. You're helping us.
She's gonna be 7 in May. She's better than ever. She's very well controlled, and it's not only her condition, but us as a family. That we're not living in the hospital anymore, that we're not worried about if she's gonna live, if she's gonna wake up tomorrow or not. We focus more on enjoy every second, and I'm not worried about time anymore. I just try to be a little open-minded and just read about it and listen to other experience and turn into a plan, which is a plan. It gave her the other side of the coin.
I hurt my leg at 17 snowboarding. I tore my ACL, and the doctors put me on Vicodin. And so I started taking Vicodin, and triggered me immediately, I guess, so to speak. And it was like, wow, I don't have to feel the weight of the world anymore. I feel a little bit more at ease. Like, flash forward 6 years later or so, and you're 24, 25 years old and taking fentanyl and Oxycontin to get high, and that's where I was. I was a raging drug addict before the Army. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2009. I was part of the Battle of Marja, which was the biggest operation since the invasion at the time. We spearheaded a 27-day operation, exploited 110 IEDs, took no casualties except a few wounded. We did a great job, but it was really hard on me, physically, mentally, and that's just 1 month of 12 I spent there. When I got back, my knee started acting up again. I tore my ACL again when I was put in sniper section and trying to keep up with the PT they were putting me under. So I had to have 2 surgeries in the Army where I was basically put at attention and told, this is what we're gonna do to your body, you don't have a choice. I don't care that you're running and fine and not in pain, you're going to have these surgeries. So I had 2 surgeries, got back on the opiates that I was on because of those, after doing a great job in the Army. And I bounced around for 4 years, homeless and addicted to not just opiates, but I was on antidepressants, I was on Adderall for some reason, I was on Ambien, all VA prescribed. And slowly over 4 years of detrimental drug use, in 2016, a friend of mine came over, seeing me withdrawing from the opiates and the benzodiazepines I was on, and tricked me into telling me he put a Valium opiate tincture in a tea. And I drank the tea and I felt better. And I watched a movie, I think it was Savages, which is a terrible movie. I watched that and I was just at ease for the first time in a long time. And the next day after I slept for a few hours, which anyone who knows opiate withdrawal knows sleep is tough, he told me that it was a CBD THC tincture, not a Valium opiate tincture, which didn't make any sense looking back now anyway. But he tricked me and he brought me around, and that was, the beginning of my cannabis journey. And now in 2020, it's an everyday occurrence for me, and it's integrated into my entire life, and I provide it for people. CBD, all the cannabinoids, they all have a place in my life. So.
Played sports my entire life. Area I grew up in, it's called Doylestown, Pennsylvania, really big football town at the time, called Central Bucks West. So went into University of Massachusetts to play football there. And then after the events of 9/11, that just kind of inspired me to go earn my citizenship and join the military and go do what we had to do.
Very cool. Good for you. Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Right. Absolutely.
I experienced, I'm a 100% disabled veteran, 100% rated PTS. And I'm a Purple Heart recipient, so I was actually shot by a grenade by Taliban when I was in Afghanistan. So still have shrapnel throughout my body. So there's a lot of pain and stuff that goes with it. But really, what inspired me was, one of my friends who was also part of Helmet Valley Growers Company just told me, hey, I gave up a fifth of Jack for a joint, and I have not been better. And kind of went into how much just helps him sleep, makes him feel good in the morning, feels a lot healthier, gets off all the opiates. So that just really intrigued my interest, and I started looking into it, and then I just tried it myself, and I slept like 6 hours that night, and it was amazing. I think emotionally, spiritually, it helps you out too, but then also, you have a little bit of it, it takes away the pain, and I always say it puts a little more lube in the joints, you're not cracking and feeling as bad as usual.
Agreed.
And that's a great thing, and there's no better medicine than sleep. And I think cannabis is one of the best things and natural ways to help someone go down and then wake up refreshed and ready to go and attack the day. They're saying, cannabis will actually reduce brain swelling when you're concussed. So they're like, one of the best things for an NFL player is if they went into that blue tent and they're saying you're concussed, just start giving them cannabis right now because it's going to start reducing the swelling and help the recovery process. When we were hit by IEDs, you might be in vehicles, but you're getting such the overpressure of the bomb going off, you're literally getting concussed from it. And we're seeing a lot of that going on with veterans having traumatic brain injury. Could there be something there? Sure, but I think we kind of have to slow roll that, and we start seeing some positive results with veterans. Maybe do a study on people who do use and don't use, like NFL players, and see if it is something that would help out brain activity. I think anything's possible, and I think they'll be open to it. But obviously, first big step, knock it off of Schedule 1 and bring it all down.
I got into nursing because I was an engineer, an aerospace engineer, and I was asked to build a detonator, and I refused and got fired because I don't build stuff that kills people. So I just so happened to have emergency surgery around the same time and laying in the hospital thinking about what can I do for a career because I'm not going to be engineering anymore. And I saw a nurse and talked to the nurse, and I thought, that's something I can do and make the same amount of money I made as an engineer, and that's what I did. I became a nurse. I'm an old hippie. I started in '68. I didn't want to smoke anything till after I graduated high school because I knew that was important. So in '68 I was a hippie and of course got introduced to cannabis, and many years later I have terrible insomnia and I started doing cannabis for sleeping. I noticed the edibles helped me sleep, so I did it for sleeping, and then many years after that I had spinal stenosis and had to retire from nursing on disability. Couldn't even stand anymore. I was in a wheelchair. I found cannabis oil through another friend, and I had surgery on my back and I still couldn't walk. I was still in a wheelchair. So I started doing the cannabis oil, and about 8 weeks after I started the cannabis oil, I could walk. I walked to the corner and back, and I was like, oh my God, I'm walking. And then I walked all the way around the block just sobbing because I could walk. So the cannabis oil got me out of a wheelchair. As a nurse, I know how bad they are. I've seen so many people I've had to wean off of addictions of opiates as a nurse. But on the other hand, if you've stuck with opiates, you want to get addicted to opiates instead? To me, it's no choice. You know, take the chance. It will help you. No one dies from marijuana. No one gets aggressive or violent on marijuana. You sit around and you relax. It's a very relaxing drug.
Yeah, I'm a retired physicist. I worked in aerospace. And when I was younger, I was extremely athletic. Never get sick.
Perfect health her whole life. Blood pressure always 120/80, perfect. And she got sick, and so we took her to the doctor, and they got her labs. They called me up early in the morning. I still remember 8:27 in the morning to tell me that she was sick and that her labs were bad. And
Yeah. So they diagnosed me with pulmonary fibrosis. There's very little treatment. We finally got on, and I was doing the medical marijuana, the cannabis, the CBD, and basically, we have to say that if it didn't do anything else, it kept me alive. And here I am today. I'm not dead like they said I was going to be.
How does THC work? Let's feed it to the mice. Let's feed it to the rats. Let's feed it to the dogs and monkeys. And lo and behold, all these animals had receptors, proteins in their body that bind THC. What's that about? Why would a human being, now moving forward, have receptors that bind a molecule produced by plants? THC, CBD, all the minor cannabinoids found in the cannabis plant are called phytocannabinoids, plant cannabinoids. When that was discovered that humans, all vertebrates, have receptors for these molecules, you gotta ask yourself, why? And the simple answer is, there must be a molecule produced by humans that the plant cannabinoid, the phytocannabinoid, mimics. It binds to the same receptor. Ultimately came with the discovery of two specific cannabinoids called endocannabinoids for endogenous. We make them within our bodies. One I love, it's called anatomide, which happens to mean bliss in Sanskrit. How appropriate, because THC mimics the activity of anatomide. It's what causes you to feel high and blissful and happy. And we know that it binds to what's now called the CB1 receptor, which happens to be found primarily in your central nervous system. We've gone on to discover CBD, which is the second cannabinoid most prevalent in plants, that vertebrates make a molecule that's shortened for 2-AG. CBD mimics that molecule. Again, let's go back. The phytocannabinoid CBD mimics the endocannabinoid 2-AG and binds the CB2 receptors. CB2 receptors are found throughout the body in the peripheral nervous system, mucoskeletal system, immune system. In fact, there are more endocannabinoid receptors in our body than in any other system we have. Given we've known about our central nervous system, our immune system, our endocrine system, all those systems, we've known about them for eons. Now we have this global modulating system that sits above it and makes sure that all our systems maintain homeostasis, that they maintain that steady state that allows for optimal health. Our community of cannabis users needs to understand that GW can put on that label that it decreases the incidence of epileptic seizures in children between 2 and 18 with this disease. That's called claims. In the adult use world we're in, we can't put claims. I would challenge you to, go take your vitamin mineral off your shelf and look at the label. It doesn't say vitamin C cures the common cold because we don't have any data. But I teach 300 students. If I ask, so how many people when they feel a cold coming on pop vitamin C? 75, 80% raise their hand. And I go, wow, how come? He goes, can't hurt. Ultimately, I believe that cannabinoids, whether you supplement your endocannabinoid system with phytocannabinoids or you change your diet to improve the production of endocannabinoids, doesn't matter. It's about maintaining homeostasis, maintaining steady state, so it should be used part of your daily regime, something that you take the same way you'd go downstairs and take a multivitamin mineral.